Have you ever seemed to be walking on eggshells around someone, wondering who they truly are underneath their masks? What if the key to understanding their real nature isn't in confrontation or analysis, but in simply walking away? Carl Jung believed that true insight often emerges when we distance ourselves from the chaos, giving us the clarity to see people's genuine selves. Today, we'll explore how stepping back can expose the masks people wear and unlock the secrets of human nature. Get ready to see the truth in others and in yourself like never before. From the moment we're born, we begin to craft identities based on our environment, experiences, and societal expectations. These identities are often necessary for survival and acceptance. They help us navigate complex social structures and gain approval from those around us. Carl Jung called the outward facade we present to the world a persona, a Latin word meaning mask. This persona serves as a kind of social armor, protecting our inner self but also distorting the reality of who we truly are. Most people go through life wearing some form of these masks, often without even realizing it. For example, someone may appear confident and outgoing, yet deep inside, they might be riddled with self-doubt and insecurity. Conversely, a person who looks reserved and cold might be hiding a warm, vulnerable core. These masks are not necessarily malicious or deceitful, rather they are adaptive mechanisms. They help us meet societal expectations, avoid judgment, or shield ourselves from emotional pain. Jung emphasized that these personas are often rooted in our unconscious minds. We develop them to gain social acceptance, to avoid conflict, or to hide our fears and vulnerabilities. Over time, these masks can become so ingrained that they start to define how we see ourselves, leading us to identify with our roles rather than our true self. When this happens, we often become disconnected from our authentic feelings and desires, living out a version of ourselves that isn't entirely genuine. Why is it important to understand this? Because the masks we wear not only influence how others perceive us, but also how we perceive ourselves. If we cling too tightly to our social roles, we risk losing sight of our genuine nature, creating a barrier to personal growth and authentic connection. It's like walking around with a costume that doesn't quite fit, or worse, one that hides our true face entirely. Consider a person who has always been defined by their professional success. They might be seen as disciplined and ambitious, but beneath that facade could lie feelings of emptiness or unfulfilled desires. Alternatively, someone using humor to mask their own pain might appear cheerful and carefree, yet inside they are shielding heartbreak or self-doubt. These masks serve as protective layers, ensuring survival in social environments that demand certain images. The challenge is that these masks can become so ingrained that they start to feel like our true selves. This is particularly dangerous because it can lead to a kind of psychological imprisonment where we are constantly performing rather than being. We may unconsciously seek approval or validation, reinforcing our personas, which then create a barrier to genuine intimacy and self-awareness. Furthermore, the societal pressures to conform, such as cultural expectations, family norms, or workplace standards, push us further into these masks. For example, in some cultures, emotional expression might be discouraged, leading individuals to hide their feelings behind a stoic exterior. In others, idealized notions of masculinity or femininity may shape how we present ourselves, often suppressing natural inclinations or vulnerabilities. But Jung pointed out that if we truly want to understand ourselves and others, we must recognize these masks for what they are, a layer of defense, not the core of who we are. The problem arises when we identify too strongly with the persona, mistaking it for our real identity. This misconception protects us from confronting uncomfortable truths or weaknesses, but ultimately prevents genuine self-discovery. Walking away from someone, either physically or emotionally, can offer a crucial chance to go beyond surface appearances. When we step back and observe, we can start to see past these masks. We notice inconsistencies, contradictions, or behaviors that don't align with the persona presented. Sometimes we see that the mask is a disguise for pain, shame, or fears that the person is unwilling or unable to face directly. In relationships, whether romantic, professional, or familial, these masks often create misunderstandings and miscommunications. We see only the veneer, not the individual's true self. This misunderstanding can lead to frustration, disappointment, or even hurt feelings. But when we understand that everyone, ourselves included, is wearing a mask crafted out of necessity or habit, It becomes easier to approach these interactions with compassion and curiosity rather than judgment. Recognizing the presence of masks reminds us of the importance of authenticity. It encourages us to question whether the roles we are playing align with our true nature or serve merely as social camouflage. This awareness can motivate us to peel back these layers carefully and patiently, fostering deeper, more genuine connections with others and ourselves. Ultimately, Jung's insight into the masks we wear invites us to consider whether we are living authentically or simply performing a role that has been assigned or adopted. To let go of these masks and to see ourselves and others clearly is a courageous step toward personal growth, emotional freedom, and true understanding of human nature. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, but the reward is an authentic life and relationships rooted in real connection. The idea of distance might seem counterintuitive in a world that values closeness and intimacy, but when it comes to understanding the true nature of others and ourselves, it plays a crucial role. Many of us tend to get entangled emotionally when we are too close to a situation, a person, or even our own reactions. We invest so much in being involved that it becomes difficult to see clearly, to maintain perspective, or to discern the truth beneath the surface. Carl Jung recognized that sometimes the most profound insights come not from proximity, but from stepping back. Imagine a complex relationship, be it with a partner, a friend, a boss, or a family member. When we're immersed in daily interactions, we see only the immediate behaviors, the reactions, the words spoken in the heat of the moment. Our perceptions become clouded by our emotions, anger, frustration, desire, or attachment. These feelings can distort our view, making it hard to distinguish between what is real and what is a projection or an internal story we're telling ourselves. Jung emphasized that emotional investment tends to blind us to the deeper motives or shadow aspects lurking beneath surface behaviors. When we're too close, we may interpret actions based on our own needs, fears, or unresolved conflicts. For example, if someone criticizes us, we might see it as a personal attack rather than recognizing it as a reflection of their own struggles or insecurities. The closer we are emotionally, the more likely we are to take things personally or to see only one side of the story. Walking away, whether physically or emotionally, creates a kind of psychological space, a vital detachment that allows us to observe more objectively. This isn't about abandonment or indifference. Rather, it's a strategic move aimed at gaining clarity. When we step back, we reduce the distortion of our emotional filters. We can see patterns and truths that remained hidden when we were too absorbed in the chaos of the moment. This concept is especially evident in situations where people are acting out of character or behaving in ways that don't make sense to us. Sometimes, when we stay involved, we become entangled in their drama, reacting impulsively, trying to fix, change, or control the situation. But Jung argued that true understanding often emerges when we create space, when we walk away, physically or mentally, to observe from a higher vantage point. There are countless stories illustrating this. A woman who was being repeatedly hurt by an unfaithful partner might initially respond with anger and desperation. But when she finally took a step back, physically leaving the relationship or emotionally detaching, she was able to see the patterns and underlying issues more clearly. She realized that her partner's actions were a reflection of his own internal chaos and inability to face his vulnerabilities, not simply a reflection of her worth. Distance allowed her to see beyond the immediate pain and recognize the bigger picture, her own need for self-respect and boundaries. In our modern lives, we often struggle with this kind of detachment because of constant connectivity, social media, instant messaging, and the 24/7 cycle of information. These bombardments keep us perpetually involved, making it difficult to pause and reflect. Yet the principle remains: stepping away creates space for clarity. This could be as simple as turning off your phone during a difficult conversation or taking a walk to clear your mind before responding to an emotionally charged email. Jung also suggested that psychological distance allows us to see the big picture and recognize our projections. When we're too close, our judgments are skewed by personal biases. Walking away provides the opportunity to examine our feelings, reactions, and assumptions without the immediate pressure of the situation. It gives us a moment to reflect. Why am I feeling this way? What does this situation truly mean? Is my perspective accurate, or is it colored by my own fears and insecurities? This detachment can also be emotional and internal. For instance, you might be experiencing intense anger or resentment towards someone. Instead of reacting impulsively, you might choose to step back mentally, pause, breathe, and observe your feelings without immediately acting on them. Sometimes a few moments of silence or a break from interaction can reduce anxiety and anxiety-driven misunderstandings, allowing you to see the person's actions or words in a more neutral light. Furthermore, this space isn't just beneficial for dealing with others, it's equally vital for understanding our own reactions. When we detach emotionally, we can analyze our impulses objectively. Why did I react so strongly? Is my response proportional or driven by past experiences? This self-awareness fosters growth and resilience, enabling us to approach relationships with more compassion and patience. Projection is one of the most fascinating and pervasive mechanisms in human psychology. It is often happening beneath our conscious awareness, shaping how we perceive others and ourselves. At its core, projection involves unconsciously attributing our own unwanted thoughts, feelings, or impulses onto someone else. Carl Jung described this process as a defensive mechanism, a way for our mind to shield us from aspects of ourselves that we find unacceptable or uncomfortable. Imagine you're feeling anxious but can't tolerate that emotion within yourself. Instead of confronting it directly, your mind might project that anxiety onto someone nearby, perceiving them as nervous or uneasy. Or consider someone who harbors deep-seated feelings of inadequacy. Instead of recognizing these feelings internally, they might see others as insecure or inferior, projecting their own self-doubts outward. These projections distort reality, coloring our perceptions of others based on our internal fears and desires. This process is ubiquitous. For example, a person who struggles with anger might accuse others of being aggressive or hostile. A person feeling guilty about past actions may insist others are dishonest or untrustworthy. Projection can also manifest in more subtle ways, such as assumptions about someone's motivations or character that are based not on reality, but on our own internal conflicts. Walking away from a person or situation provides a powerful opportunity to recognize projection. When we remove ourselves physically or emotionally, we create space to observe behaviors and reactions more objectively. In this space, we might notice inconsistencies or patterns that previously eluded us when we were too emotionally involved. For instance, if someone accuses others of being selfish or manipulative, a detached observer might reflect on their own history. Perhaps they recognize that they have, at times, struggled with selfishness or manipulation, but found it too painful to admit. In relationships, projection often leads to misunderstandings because each person is seeing the other through a distorted lens. Someone might see their partner as unfaithful or untrustworthy, when in fact, the real issue lies within their own fears or insecurities. When we choose to step back, we can see that these accusations aren't necessarily rooted in reality, but are projections of internal conflicts. The person making accusations might be trying to avoid their own guilt or vulnerability, perceiving these qualities in others instead. This perspective shift is crucial because it allows us to approach conflicts more compassionately. If we realize that many of the negative perceptions we hold about others are projections of our internal struggles, it becomes easier to detach from judgment and instead focus on understanding. For example, if you're convinced that a colleague is out to sabotage you, stepping away might reveal that your own fear of inadequacy is coloring your perception, causing you to see threats where none exist. Furthermore, recognizing projection in others can illuminate what they are avoiding or denying within themselves. By observing their behaviors from a distance, we often see the underlying fears, insecurities, or shame that they are unwilling or unable to confront. These projections serve as defenses, covering up vulnerabilities they fear will make them appear weak or unworthy. Walking away also offers us insight into our own projections. Sometimes, we project our fears and feelings onto others because it's easier than facing ourselves. For instance, we may criticize someone's attitude, not because they are truly at fault, but because doing so obscures our own feelings of inadequacy or failure. When we detach from the situation, we get the chance to reflect. Am I judging this person based on my own unresolved issues? Recognizing this can be an eye-opening experience, revealing aspects of ourselves that demand attention. This process of recognizing projection requires honesty and courage. It's uncomfortable to admit that our perceptions might be biased or skewed by our internal wounds. Yet it is also liberating. When we understand that many of our judgments result from projection, we gain the power to challenge and revise those perceptions, leading to healthier relationships and greater self-awareness. Walking away also helps us see the projections others make about us. When someone criticizes us harshly or holds grudges, it's often rooted in their own unresolved issues, not necessarily something we did or are. Observing how people react from a distance helps us understand that their accusations or judgments say more about them than about us. This realization can protect us from taking blame personally and enable us to maintain our sense of integrity and self-esteem. In some cases, people's projections can become so entrenched that they act out their internal conflicts through aggression, blame, or withdrawal. When we allow ourselves to step back, we can see these behaviors as manifestations of their internal struggles, not as definitive statements about their character. This perspective fosters compassion rather than judgment, which is essential for authentic connection. It encourages us to respond with empathy, understanding that beneath their projections lies a vulnerable human being trying to cope. Every person, regardless of their outward appearance or their surface virtues, contains what Jung termed the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we have repressed, denied, or refused to acknowledge. These hidden facets are often uncomfortable, embarrassing, or frightening. Society teaches us to hide or suppress these aspects to maintain a certain image or to avoid feelings of shame and guilt. Yet Jung argued that these shadow elements are an integral part of our psyche. They contain valuable truths about our internal conflicts, unmet needs, and unresolved issues. The concept of the shadow can be likened to the dark side of the moon, always present, yet often unseen. It includes impulses, memories, and traits that we consider undesirable, such as anger, resentment, greed, jealousy, or insecurity. From early childhood, we learn which traits are acceptable and which aren't. Those deemed unacceptable are pushed into the subconscious, becoming part of the shadow. We may consciously deny these qualities, but they continue to influence our behavior in powerful, often unconscious ways. Walking away from someone or a situation is a crucial step in uncovering the shadow. For when we step back, the hidden aspects of ourselves and others tend to surface in more raw, honest ways. When we're emotionally entangled, it's difficult to see these traits clearly. They get distorted or masked by our defenses. But when we create physical or emotional distance, the subconscious becomes more accessible. The parts of us we've tried to hide or deny start to emerge, often in exaggerated or unexpected ways. For example, in a heated argument, you may find yourself suddenly feeling exaggerated anger, spite, or a response that surprises you. When you step away and reflect, you might realize that beneath that anger lies deep-seated feelings of inadequacy or fear of rejection. By leaving the immediate situation, you create space to witness these feelings without immediately acting on them. That space allows for honest self-examination, what Jung called confrontation with the shadow. In observing someone else from a distance, you might notice their behavior is driven by their shadow. For instance, a person who constantly criticizes others might be masking their own feelings of insecurity or failure. Their defensiveness, their judgmental attitude, these are surface behaviors that conceal a vulnerable, perhaps even wounded part of their inner world. When you walk away and look at the picture more objectively, their shadow jewelry becomes more visible, and compassion can replace frustration. You see that their harshness is a defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from feeling inadequate or unworthy. This process of recognition can also reveal your own shadow. Sometimes we react strongly to someone else's behavior, even to minor offenses, because we see reflected in them a part of ourselves we don't want to face. Maybe you get annoyed when someone contradicts you publicly. When you take a step back, you might realize that your reaction stems from deep vulnerabilities or fears of insignificance. You are projecting your own shame or self-doubt onto that person. Walking away enables you to observe and discover your own unconscious triggers, providing a pathway to integrating those hidden aspects. In this way, the shadow is not something to fear, but an opportunity for growth. Jung believed that our unconscious contains both light and dark elements, attributes of ourselves that, when acknowledged and integrated, can lead to wholeness. Denying or repressing the shadow creates a split within. It becomes a source of internal conflict, neurosis, or destructive behaviors. But when we confront it, often from a safe distance, we can accept these parts as valid aspects of our human experience and work toward inner harmony. Walking away also helps in recognizing the shadow traits of others. When we are too close to someone emotionally, their projections, whether of hostility, jealousy, or defensiveness, can be overwhelming and cloud our judgment. Stepping back allows us to see that these behaviors might be driven by their unresolved issues, not a reflection of our worth or theirs. This perspective shifts our attitude from judgment to understanding, fostering empathy and patience. This pursuit of understanding the shadow requires honesty and humility. It's challenging to admit that parts of ourselves we dislike exist, let alone that they may influence our actions and relationships. Yet Jung's insight reminds us that acknowledging our shadow doesn't diminish us, it empowers us. It is through this honest engagement that we gain the potential for transformation, integrating our hidden parts into our conscious awareness and living more authentic lives. Walking away for this purpose is not about avoidance, but about courageous self-investigation. It's about creating enough emotional and psychological space to confront, accept, and ultimately integrate our shadow. By doing so, we become more whole, less reactive, and more capable of genuine connection with others. It's a process of peeling back the layers of illusion and camouflage, revealing the true nature beneath. True understanding of others isn't rooted in trying to control, change, or judge them, but in observing with an open and honest curiosity. Jung emphasized that the most profound insights often come not from active intervention, but from simply witnessing and listening, quietly and patiently. When we take a step back from emotional reactions, we carve out a space where authenticity can begin to surface naturally. This process is subtle, often requiring humility, patience, and a willingness to accept people as they are, without immediate judgment or expectation. Imagine a scenario where someone is speaking to you, and their words seem contradictory or layered with hidden meanings. When you push to analyze or respond impulsively, you may miss the deeper truth behind what they are saying. But when you consciously choose to pause, to detach from the urge to fix or evaluate, you open yourself up to seeing more clearly. In that silence, the true motives, the underlying passions, fears, or unresolved conflicts often reveal themselves. Walking away from a charged situation allows us to observe from a vantage point that is independent of our emotional reactions. From this distance, we begin to notice subtle cues, a change in tone, a hesitation, a nervous glance, or a fleeting expression. These clues are easy to overlook when we are caught up in our own emotional storm. But through careful observation, we come to see that even the most outwardly confident person may be masking deep insecurity, or that someone's harsh words are concealing their own pain and vulnerability. This ability to observe is also fundamental in understanding patterns of behavior. When we are emotionally involved, we often see only isolated incidents, a specific disagreement, a fleeting moment of anger. But by stepping back and monitoring interactions over time, we start recognizing recurring themes, certain triggers, underlying fears, or ingrained habits. This broader perspective reveals the consistent ways in which people behave, which often reflect their deeper unconscious motivations. For instance, consider a friend who repeatedly dismisses your suggestions. When you are emotionally invested, you might feel hurt or annoyed, assuming they are simply being dismissive or rude. But when you detach and observe, you may notice that this friend tends to dismiss others' ideas when feeling insecure or undervalued. Their dismissiveness is less about you personally and more about their own internal struggles. Such insight helps you see beyond surface behavior and understand the person more compassionately. The beauty of observation as a tool lies in its ability to uncover genuine qualities that might otherwise remain hidden behind social masks or emotional defenses. When we do not rush to evaluate or respond, we let people reveal their true selves naturally. Sometimes individuals surprise us by their kindness, vulnerability, or wisdom, qualities that are often obscured when we approach them with expectations or preconceived notions. Moreover, observation provides a fertile ground for developing empathy. When we genuinely listen and watch, we begin to see that others are acting out of complex internal worlds, driven by aspirations, fears, wounds, and hopes. Recognizing this complexity fosters patience and kindness, freeing us from the tendency to judge hastily. Instead of seeing someone simply as difficult, we perceive their behavior as a reflection of their inner landscape. This perspective also transforms our relationship with ourselves. When we observe our own reactions and motivations without judgment, we gain clarity about our true nature. For instance, noticing that our irritation escalates in certain contexts helps us understand what specific triggers activate our shadows or unmet needs. This self-awareness is invaluable, as it creates the possibility for authentic change without shame or blame, because we are simply witnessing and understanding rather than condemning ourselves. Practically, this approach involves cultivating mindful awareness. It requires slowing down and paying careful attention to both our internal states and external cues. This might mean pausing before responding in a heated conversation, taking deep breaths, or simply observing someone's body language before jumping to conclusions. Over time, this attentive stance becomes natural, enriching our interactions and deepening our understanding of other people's true selves. When we walk away and observe, we also create a buffer that prevents us from reactive impulsiveness, which often leads to misunderstandings and conflicts. We learn to differentiate between superficial reactions, those driven by anger, fear, or ego, and the deeper truths that lie beneath. This discernment allows conversations to be more genuine and less prone to escalation, fostering healthier, more authentic relationships. In essence, genuine understanding through observation is about approaching others with humility and patience, recognizing that most people are doing their best with the limitations and confusions of their internal worlds. It's about resisting the urge to judge or change people on the spot, and instead fostering a space where they can present their authentic selves. Such patience and openness can be transformative, not only in our relationships, but in our own journey towards self-awareness and growth. Throughout this exploration, we've seen how stepping back, whether physically, emotionally, or psychologically, can reveal truths that are otherwise hidden beneath the surface. Detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's a conscious choice to create space that allows insight, clarity, and understanding to emerge. When we detach with intention, we step into a place of neutrality, a vantage point free from the distortions of emotion and bias, enabling us to see the real picture both in others and ourselves. Imagine a situation where you're caught in recurring conflict or confusion about someone's behavior. Initially, you might feel a wave of frustration or sadness. Your instinct might be to confront, to fix, or even to withdraw entirely. But what if instead you chose to step back, to walk away mentally or physically, and observe? In that silence and distance, you allow the true motives, fears, or shadows of the other person, and yourself, to surface. You begin to understand that their actions often stem from internal struggles, unresolved wounds, or unconscious programs. Recognizing this truth can transform your approach from reactive judgment to compassionate understanding. This act of detachment also empowers you to examine your own reactions and beliefs. It grants you the ability to ask deeper questions. Why do I feel so triggered? Is this situation truly about that person, or does it reveal something about my own insecurities? The distance you've created becomes an ally in your journey toward emotional resilience and awareness. It helps you see patterns, not just in others, but in your own responses, opening the door to genuine growth and healing. Walking away with purpose fosters a sense of humility, an acknowledgement that you don't always have to have all the answers or control over others. Sometimes the most powerful action is inaction, choosing to suspend judgment, to pause, and to give yourself the gift of clarity before reacting. This pause can mean delaying a response, taking time to reflect, or simply refraining from engaging in a conversation when emotions threaten to cloud your judgment. Through this discipline, you cultivate patience and wisdom, qualities that are essential for navigating the complexities of human interactions. The beauty of this approach is that it aligns with the natural rhythms of life. Just as the seasons change, relationships evolve and perspectives shift. Detachment helps us flow with these changes, rather than resist them. It reminds us that we are not obliged to be enmeshed in every moment or reaction. Instead, we can choose to observe and learn from the distances we intentionally create. This practice also serves as an act of self-love. By walking away, you protect your mental and emotional health. It's a way of honoring your boundaries, recognizing your limits, and understanding that you don't have to accept toxicity or quantity over quality in your relationships. Detachment, in this sense, is a form of empowerment. It's about taking control of your inner world and refusing to let external chaos destabilize your sense of self. As you continue practicing detachment, you'll notice a significant shift in the depth of your understanding, the clarity of your perceptions, and the serenity of your inner life. The more you accept that not everything requires immediate resolution, the more you allow genuine insight and transformation to occur. You learn to trust in the process of natural unfolding, knowing that understanding will come in its own time and in its own way, provided you create the space for it. Now, I invite you to take this insight into your daily life. If you found value in this journey, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you connect with a community dedicated to growing through self-awareness, understanding human nature, and embracing the wisdom that comes with patience and perspective. When you subscribe, you don't just support this content, you invest in your own journey of exploration and deeper understanding. Think of it as a commitment to yourself, to look beyond surface appearances, to walk away at times when emotional reactions threaten to cloud your judgment, and to cultivate the patience necessary for genuine insight. Your subscription signals that you are ready to see things more clearly, to embrace the complexities of human nature, and to develop the resilience needed to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace. Remember, sometimes the most profound understanding comes not from grasping tightly, but from releasing attachments, expectations, and judgments. Walking away in this context is a radical act of courage and love, a step toward inner freedom and authentic connection. So, if you're ready to continue this journey of discovery, to deepen your understanding of yourself and others, click that subscribe button now. Join us as we explore the depths of human consciousness, unravel the masks, confront the shadows, see from a distance, and ultimately, live more freely and authentically. Your growth begins with one simple step: subscribing today, so that you never stop learning, never stop evolving, and never stop seeing the world and yourself through clearer vision.